Hello everyone, I'm Vicky. Today, I want to share with you a programming process for a WPF Magic Navigation Bar. This project is relatively straightforward to operate on the web, and there are plenty of tutorials available for reference online. However, when it's come to writing in WPF, whether it's construction or animation, it might seem a bit complex. But if you have a deeper understanding of the feasibility of WPF, you will find it's actually quite simple to handle. And the final effect will not be inferior to the web, but can be displayed more elegantly. The entire programming process is very interesting, and we have also carefully organized the code parts, hoping it will be helpful to everyone. In the future, we will regularly update with more high-quality videos, so don't forget to follow us. Okay, let's get started. First, let's create a new project. Here, we choose the WPF Custom Control library. And we'll name our project Navigation Bar. Then confirm the project location. And .NET A was launched last month, so we'll choose the latest version. Since we're creating new project, so we'll delete the original assembly and custom control file. Then we add a new class. We choose the type of WPF Custom Control. In the project name, Magic Bar. It's a basic magic bar that inherits the control property. As we are creating a custom control, the default style key property is automatically generated here, allowing it to interface with a basic style in generic. And we can see we just deleted the assembly. But after creating a new custom control, the system automatically generated the necessary assembly for runtime and generic file in themes. We come to generic, where we define the template, but it's still empty. So let's first add a slider to test it out. But it's just a custom control library. It can run, so we need to add a project. Here we choose WPF application, project name Demo App, and also select version 8. Then we right-click and set it as the startup project. Then we edit the navigation bar into the reference. And then we enter the navigation bar address. Then here, navigation, magic bar. And we run it. Now we can see the slider. Then let's go back to the navigation bar. If you often use the custom controls, you would be familiar with this part of the properties. Of course, there are also some who are new to this, so let me briefly explain. Suppose we delete this default style key and run it. The slider won't appear, right? Or if we delete the assembly part, it also won't appear. And if we add a next key here, we still can't see the content. So in custom control, it is essential that these three elements are present and correct for it to function properly. This is something to be mindful of. Now let's get started for real. First, we come to the magic bar. If we want to create an item and use it repeatedly, it must be list box, and it has a very high degree of freedom. So we choose a list box. And next, we can perform operations in generic. As this navigation bar is different from a regular button, it's not the whole thing as a background, it's part by part, so we don't need a border. We can just use grid. First, we add a border to the grid, and it will be our bar. And we can set the size of this magic bar to 440 in width and 120 in height. Then we can customize the style on top. Target type border. X key bar. First, the background color. And we need margin. Forty on top. And corner radius for about 10. Okay, let's run it. Okay, it's worked, but I want it more clear, so I will back to the main window to set the background color. Then we can add a background color to the magic bar to see the structure. Okay, the brown part is the entire area of the magic bar, and we give the margin value of 40 to the bar, so the white area is a bar. Next, we need to white the part of layout that can move. So for this part, we use canvas. Add a grid with the X key name circle. Then we can customizing on the top. Width and height for 80. And next, let's add an ellipse. Set it to brown. Since it's the same color as the background, visually it looks like a piece has been cut out. Okay, next we add a blue circle with a margin value of 6. So this part is now complete. In order to make the lines more natural, we are going to add a smoothly transitioning arc. In most CSS tutorials, a common approach is to add a small sector and set it to the same background color to blend it with the overall design. However, this method tends to produce arcs that are slightly lacking in smoothness. In WPF, we could directly use images or draw with the paths as before, but calculating the volumes for the arc can be quite complex. So it reminds me of my recent fascination with 3D printing. While using Blender to create models with the special shapes, I often use the merge and subtract the feature. In Microsoft Blend software, we can use a similar approach to easily create the images we want. So today, let's try it together. Here we need to hide the magic bar part. First, let's set up a grid area with a width and height of 100 each. And background color for silver. Then we add a blue rectangle. It can help us determine the center position of the shape. And here we use a margin to set its size. Next, we add a black circle with a width and height of 80. For the arcs on the left and right sides, we need to draw them with the 2 small circles. So we add a circle on each side, both with width and height of 20. And we adjust their positions with the margin. It's a little bit high, so let's lower it by about 20. And now we need to make the large circle and small circles intersect just right. We can slightly increase the size of the large circle. We adjust its volume to 81. Oh, it seems too small. Then to 82. It's too big. So let's gradually increase some volumes. Okay, 81.97 seems like more appropriate value. To fill the blank part in the middle, we need to add another rectangle. Initially setting the height to 20 and then adjust it slightly according to the shape, so it fits perfectly at the intersection. "17 seems a bit large. And 16 look just right. We try 15, but it seems too small, so we settle on 16. Alright, next we can merge and cut out the shapes. We select the large circle, the green and blue parts simultaneously. Right-click and choose Unite under Combine. This way, the three shapes are merged into one. Then we delete the left and right small circles, keeping only the arc part at the intersection. We select each small circle and blue part, right-click and choose Subtract. Now the circles are cut out in the same way to the left. Next we need to do is add a straight line in the middle to get the shape we want. So we add a green rectangle with a margin of 50. Then select the rectangle and the blue shape. Right-click and choose a Subtract on the Combine to get a special shape with a very natural curvature. Then we can directly copy this automatically generated data value into our project for use. Okay, we add a geometry on the top. Here we can set an X key, arc data, and put the data here. Then we add this path to our project to see. Static resource, arc. And then we come here to customize the style. First, we need the data. Static resource, arc data, and width and height for 100. Then we set the fill color to yellow. Let's have a check. The position of the path is not right, so we adjust it with a margin. We give -10 on each side, so it can bring the path to the center. Then we move it to a right position, half of 80, so it's 40. Okay, then we change the color to black. And take a close look. Here, this tiny part isn't handled very well, so we can add two properties in the magic bar. Snaps to device pixel and use layout rounding for a detailed treatment. And we choose True. Okay, let's have a check. If it looks much better now. Okay, let's take a closer look at the shape in main window. We can see that there seems to be a piece missing at the bottom. Does this remind you of our previous play button video? That's right, it's a pass margin issue. We set the large circle to 80 in blend, but it wasn't enough, so we had to add a bit more. Therefore, setting the top margin to 40 is inevitably not enough, so we need to subtract the excess volume at the bottom. Let's try -2. It should work. -1 is also fine. -0.5, it's a bit less. In fact, we can calculate it. 81.97 divided by 2 equals 40.985. So setting it to -1 should be enough. Okay, this way the whole part can be reviewed completely. Then we move the pass to the top, which is its original position. Then we change the background color to blend it in nicely. But this shape is too far to the left, and we can see the arc on the left side of the pass. So we adjust the canvas's margin volume. Okay, now we can see the left side. Then we adjust the background color of the shape to an appropriate color. Okay, with that, the basic shape of the navigation bar is done. Next, we need to set up the list box item part. We add a 5 list box item here with different content. And we run it. But we can't see anything. Why is that? Because the custom control was verified. To specify the position of the items, we need to add an items presenter. Okay, now we can see it, but it's not in the layout from we want. So we set the items panel below. And we choose a horizontal arrangement for the stack panel. However, we want it to be evenly arranged according to the size of the bar, so we need to change it to uniform grid with a 1 row and 5 columns. Then the area of the items presenter should not be fully occupied, but should match the bar at the bottom. So we set the margin of 40 for the top part of the items presenter. But we find that this area doesn't match the canvas area because we set the margin of 20 on both sides of the canvas, so we should set the same for the items presenter. Okay, now it can match. Okay, next let's customize our list box item. First, we connect the item container style with the list box item. And we name it Magic Bar Item. Then we write the style at the top. Target type X-type list box item. And Magic Bar Item. Okay, property template. At this time, we won't add anything, just run it to make sure it's work even if it's empty. Okay, it's worked. Next, we need an icon and text, so we add a grade. First, a text block. And then we use template binding for content. Now we're back to the main window and enter the needed text. Okay, the text will now show up. Now let's add an icon. We use the icon from Gemsnet WPF NuGet package. It's very easy to use. Now we add the NuGet package address in the generic file. And then inserted the icon and test it. Okay, all good. We'll use template binding here as well because we need to reference this volume. So we define it as a tag, then add this tag in the main window. However, when adding it, we need to make sure it matches the icon type. So we press F12 to see what the volume is. Okay, it's turned out to be Gemsnet, the icon type. So now we know what to do. Back in the main window, first we add the NuGet package address. Since we already referenced the navigation bar, so we don't need to add the NuGet package again for it to work properly. Tag, static, James, icon type, and the icon. We copy and modify the icon to suit our needs. Now both the text and icon are correctly displayed. Then I want to customize this icon. So we go to the generic file. We add a static resource for the icon. We set the size of this icon, both width and height, to 40. And then I will choose a fill color, adding a bit of transparency. Since we've already styled the icon, to keep the magic bar item code part more cleaner, we can move the template binding into the style. But it's beyond the contra templates area, so we can't use the template binding anymore. Here we need to use a relative source instead. Property icon, binding, relative source. And pass, tag. Okay, let's check it out. If it runs smoothly, that means we are successful. It looks good. Then the same goes for the text part. We set up a custom style. And we can also adjust the font weight and font size. Here we set the margin to position the content properly. Then we move the template binding into the style as well. Okay, it's worked. Now let's handle the animation part. We're at control template triggers here, needing both interaction and X action. And next, let's set up the storyboard content above. For the part where the icon moves, we need to use thick item, which refers to the thickness animation in WPF. Here we choose Cubase in L. Here we need to use a target name, but we should ideally add a next name below, but no worries. Let's just word it here for now, and we call it icon. In time for half second. Property margin to -80. And then we'll go below and add the X name. The details of this part have been thoroughly explained in our previous 2 videos, so if you are unclear, feel free to check the video. This way, we've completed the upward motion animation for the icon. For the downward animation is similar. First, we add an X action. Then name it unselected. Next, we'll set the storyboard content above to return to the original position. Okay, now the icon can move up and down. But we noted that if we click outside the icon area, it's not recognized correctly. This issue, as we've discussed in previous video, is due to not setting a background color for the grid. It defaults to no, so we need to add a background color. To not affect the visual, we can set it to transparent. Now, wherever we click, it gets recognized correctly. Next, we need to change the color of the icon. Here we use color item. And for the property, we choose a fill color. Then change the color. It's the same for unselected part. Just change the color. Okay, now for the text animation part. First, we set an X name. Then copy the icon part. Change the name. And set the movement distance. Now the text can also move up. Then we copy the code to complete the unselected part. This way, both text and icon can move up and down. The text also needs color changes, so we copy the color item. For the unselected part, I want the text to disappear, so we add a transparent color. You can directly write the transparent in English, but I prefer to use a numerical form to keep it consistent with the both. Then we back to the text block and set the basic foreground color to transparent. This completes all the animation for these two parts. When the icon goes up, the text appears. When the icon comes down, the text disappears, along with the color change. But there's a small issue when they use the keyboard left and right keys to control. A dotted line box appears. But we can deal with that. We go to Magic Bar item and add an attribute called Focus Visual Style. Set it to Null. Let's check it out. And now it's gone, right? Okay, next we need to handle the animation for the circle part. In XAML, the animation type is static. After setting up the storyboard, when click, it can move to a fixed position. However, the movement of the circle part needs to be calculated, so we can't complete it in XAML and need to implement it in C# code. First, we need to write the storyboard part. Private void init storyboard. Then we need a volume item and storyboard. However, we can set up abbreviation, VI and SB. Like in demo, first we set the mode part. Here we use a Crantic is in out animation. And then we remove chains. Next, we press Ctrl and the Paris key to add a necessary using statements. Now for the property, in XAML we could write it one way. But here we write it as property pass, canvas, left property. For duration, in XAML we used to be write like this. But now, new duration, new time span, and there are 6 options. Since we want to use the milliseconds, so we scroll down and choose the 5th one. Half seconds is 500 milliseconds, so we set the value to 500. And that's it. Next, we set the storyboard's set target part. But what area does this target control? Let's have a check. It's a grayed area. We need to connect this part, so first we add a next name to this circle. Previously, we could simply write circle, but this time we need to use it in code behind, so we can add a part in front of the circle. But actually, there's no difference. It's just a more stylistic naming convention for readability. Then we go back here. Here, we can't directly put the circle here. Instead, we need to use the override on a play template method. The connection between control and style is invoked at that node. Then use a getTemplateChild to find the part circle we just defined. However, it must receive a dependency object, so we transfer it into a grade. We call out any storyboard. And it needs to receive grade circle. And finally, we put the circle here. So by separating the init story part like this, the on the play template method code comes very clear. And next one, set target property. Here we directly add the both volume item and volume item property. Finally, we put the volume item into the storyboard. With this, the storyboard animation setup is complete. Next, we'll handle the menu part. Every time we select, we want it to move. So here we'll choose the override on selection changed method. Whenever we click this menu, selection changed is triggered. Next, for moving to what position, we need to add the volume item too, but we can't directly add it here since it's in the previous menu. So we put this part out like this. Then we delete this part. Then we can add a volume item, setting the movie distance to 80. and then begin the storyboard. Let's run it. As expected, there's an issue. Let's take a closer look. There's no initial volume. Yes, we haven't set the initial position. How can it move to 80? So we're back to demo and set an initial position for the circle. I want it to start outside the bar area, so we set it to -100. Now it can run normally. However, since we set the fixed volume, no matter where we click, it will only move to a fixed position. And the same effect occurs with all the volume. But what we want is for it to move to where we click, automatically calculating the moving distance based on our click position. So here we need to use selected index multiplied by 80. This way, it calculates the moving distance based on our click position and achieves the movement. But I want to initially hide this circle, so here we use the clip property again, which can be used to customize the visible area. For a detailed explanation, you can watch our previous videos. So here I will quickly write it down. Rectangle geometry. Rec is the size of a magic bar, so 440 and 120. With that, our visible area is framed in this range. Finally, I want to set an initial position for this blue circle. Like how we handle the circle part, this part also needs to be implemented in code behind, so we set a next name in advance. However, it's not the custom control domain, but in main window. So we don't need to add a part tag in front, just white bar. Then we're back to main window.demo and add a loaded event method. Here we start by setting the bar. Selected index to 0, which means the bar will appear in the first position. If we set it to 3, it will appear in the fourth position. Alright, that's everything for this project. We already uploaded source code to GitHub, so you can follow along with the video and the source code for practice. If you have any question, feel free to leave a comment. And if you find this video useful, don't forget to follow our YouTube channel. So, see you next time. Bye bye.